Arsenal's 1-0 victory over Newcastle yesterday afternoon all but secured second place in the Premier League for the third season in a row. But can we consider this season a success given all the factors that have gone on? Is second place and a semi-final in the Champions League enough? We're going to get into that as we do the match review of Arsenal 1, Newcastle 0. Yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are well. I hope you are satisfied. Arsenal returned to winning ways yesterday afternoon for the first time in, I think it's 5 games. It was a long time since our last victory. And I feel like I certainly needed that, even though it was, it wasn't exactly vintage Arsenal, which we will come on to. And I certainly think we've played better this year and not got results. Many times actually. Played better this year, not got results. It was good just to kind of scrape a win. Obviously, huge quality from Declan Rice in that moment. So really pleased. 3 points is what we needed. It takes the pressure off the final day. I also watched Southampton earlier in the day, and they were just terrible against Everton. So I wasn't like crazy worried because I still thought we would be able to get a result on the final day, having watched Southampton and how bad they were against Everton. But to be fair, it's just nice to get rid of that for the final day and be able to just enjoy one last Arsenal game before the summer. The highly anticipated summer, of course, we're all already talking about it. Before I get into the game, just want to welcome some listeners, and we have new listeners from lots of new countries: Mexico, Zambia. That's cool. Some people in South Africa listening, and we have people in Norway as well. So welcome to all of you guys who are new listeners. I need to do a count up of how many countries we've hit actually, because that's all getting very, very exciting. But onto the game. So what I'm going to do is in the first half kind of sum up a little bit of my thoughts on the game, and in the second half talk a little bit about this season and is it a success? Because second place and a semi-final of the Champions League at the start of the year, we probably weren't hoping for that, but we were hoping for a little bit more. But could you have anticipated some of the things that have come our way? We will do all of that in the second half, but we will start with the game and reviewing this match. And I think an interesting place to start is David Raya. Because what a strange game David Raya had. He took home man of the match and made some incredible saves. Looking at my notes here this morning, I take notes during the game, he made a couple of really important saves to keep us in this game early on, because we were not good in that first half, were we? I mean, we could not get control of the game. Not until about 35 minutes was I watching it thinking, okay, we're a match for Newcastle here, which is obviously worrying. They were obviously without Alexander Isak, and I think that was a blessing for us. Obvious blessing, because Alexander Isak is such a talented player. And they will be ruining the fact that he wasn't on the pitch, because with him on the pitch, I think they probably have the lead at half time. He's a cut above in terms of finishing than the other Newcastle players. And of course, he creates chances or gets on the ends of chances, I should say, in a lot more regularly. And Newcastle were completely dominant. So in the 5th minute, Raya gave the ball away and he had to create a really, really good double save at that point. He gave that ball away and his kicking just did not improve at all. 13th minute, he made a really good save. And then on the 16th minute, this was the one that really, really impressed me. The double save from the corner, obviously saves the first attempt and then manages to get a boot on the second attempt, which is going towards goal. It's a really, really athletic moment. And within 16, 17 minutes, I wrote down that David Raya had 3 to 4 brilliant saves, but my God, was he not good with his feet. He's just lost this ability to kick the ball. Well, first of all, to kick the ball long multiple times during the whole game. He kicked the ball out when going long, and he tried some driven passes through the centre, trying to find Ødegaard, find Trossard, find Saka at times with a low driven one, and just could not get it right. And I saw posts online about is this David Raya's kicking kind of degrading because he's played so much football? I mean, he's only missed one game this year. Two, sorry. 2 games. One where the young lad, the 16-year-old, started. I think his name's Jack Porter. And then one where Neto started versus Girona. So one in the League Cup, one in the Champions League. Otherwise, he's played every game and had to get himself physically and mentally ready for every game. Look, it's not the same as Declan Rice or Martin Odegaard getting themselves ready with the amount of running and sprints that those guys do. Raya's a goalkeeper. His physical toll is much less, but mentally, it certainly can take a toll on you. You know, just having to prepare for every game, prepare for all the opponents. It's difficult. So, if we had a backup keeper, would his kicking be in a better spot? But for me, that's kind of a loose argument because his goalkeeping is, you know, the fundamental thing he's there for in this game was superb and earned him a man of the match performance. I do think there are some tactical instructions that I don't know, we almost feel like some things have been worked out over the last few weeks and we're not adjusting quite quickly enough. And I wonder if it's a kind of end of the season. Arsenal don't want to bring in anything new, but we probably should have done. For example, you know, we go long a fair bit when we've got Mourinho and Havertz up top, and we kept going long in this game in the first half, and I could not understand for the life of me why. I spoke in the preview podcast about going over their midfield, but actually they changed their system entirely. There were 3 at the back, just 2 in midfield. And I don't think we really recognise that change because we, rightly, if they're in their usual 4-3-3, we'd prepped to go over it, clearly. And that was clearly part of the plan, just to take that midfield 3 out of it. But it wasn't a midfield 3, was it? It was a back 3. So by going over it, we just gave the ball back to them. You know, there was multiple times where Saka or Trossard was competing with Dan Burn or Shah or Botman, and it just weren't a match for them. I can understand it if you've still got like Mourinho up there or Havertz up there, because those guys might win one of those duels, and actually then you are past their midfield too, and you've got an overload to win the second ball. So I can understand it then, but we didn't adapt quickly enough to that change of system from Newcastle, and I think Raya's long kicking was a bit ineffective. The long balls were ineffective, and what it was doing was it was just allowing Newcastle to entirely control the game because we were giving it back to them so easily. We saw as well a couple of times the usual pattern, I say usual over the last few weeks, where we've been really, really tired, not focusing 100%, and we've seen players giving the ball away. Saliba and Thomas Partey are the 2 biggest culprits for that, and they contrived to do it together on the 37th minute. Saliba gave the ball away with a sloppy pass. He won it back, so he recovered his mistake, gave it to Thomas Partey. He got no man on shout, and he just had his pocket picked. He looked like he thought he was on the pitch on his own, or that the game had been paused by the ref or something. It was a very, very strange moment. We did have some, and it's a very soft some chances in the first half. I thought Leandro Trossard was the player who could leave the pitch at half time with his head held high. He really gave a decent go, and Leandro Trossard he's doing me a number at the moment because I keep going, we need to sell Leandro Trossard. Let's go and make some money off Leandro Trossard. You know, we need to move on, and he keeps churning out really good performances, like against Liverpool and in this first half against Newcastle. He had the first moment of quality for Arsenal on the 12th minute where he turned Murphy inside out, and Gary Neville really lays it in on the sense that Trossard and Martinelli should just be going at Jacob Murphy because he can play that wing-back role, but he's been playing right wing all year. So Gary Neville, I think rightly, was saying, you know, just drive at him. And the one time I think we got it right, and Trossard did drive at him. Not to say Martinelli didn't do an okay job, but I don't think he really put the hammer down on him. But the one time we did do that was in the 12th minute. Leandro Trossard turned Murphy inside out, and rather than waiting to find a cross, he actually got to the byline and cut back himself and got a shot away. Now, it was blocked, but it was the first moment where I thought, okay, we've turned them around a little bit. It feels like that was a really good opportunity and a good piece of quality from us. We earned a corner, and from the resulting corner, we had a glancing header from Thomas Partey. One of those moments where Nick Pope just makes himself big, and he knows nothing about it, in my opinion, and it doesn't go in. I don't want to play the victim, but it was another like superhuman goalkeeping save that I'm just like, goodness me, like when you just need one. You just need one just to go in or creep in, or the goalkeeper to have a howler. Like, it feels like none of that's happened this year. Last year, when we were flying and we were on that incredible run, it felt like everything was going for us. And I always think to that Reece Nelson goal at Bournemouth. How does it happen that ball just gets to Reece Nelson and he's free on the edge of the area? It's a bit of luck. It's a bit of an opposition mistake. And I knew we wanted to win this game. I felt like it would be lovely to have the final day stress-free. 13th minute. And it's just a wonderful save from Nick Pope. He doesn't know too much about it, but he does exactly what he's supposed to do as a goalkeeper. And it was one of those moments where I was thinking, last year that goes in. Last year, Nick Pope doesn't get anywhere near that. And it's just one of those oddities of football that you can't explain. Sometimes momentum and chances, they just fall on the wrong side for you over a long period of time. And that was one of those right there. And with how well Newcastle were playing at that point and how effective their tactical system had been, I thought, okay, we might be in for a little bit of trouble here. Otherwise, we were bereft of quality. And I thought that first half, it absolutely went to Newcastle. And you've got to give Eddie Howe credit. I feel like he really has Mikel Arteta's number tactically. Him and Jason Tindall, as much as I dislike Jason Tindall, they do a good job of changing and adjusting for Arsenal and getting their players right up for the game as well. So, look, fair play to them. I thought it was a really clever tactical tweak. They almost anticipated that we were going to try and take their midfield out of it and beat their defence with our three very mobile forwards. So what they did is they said, well, we're going to pack our defence and give you a problem with our wing-backs this time. And it did cause us issues. Miles Lewis-Skelly was being caused a lot of issues down that right-hand side by Jacob Murphy. And when I saw Calafiori putting his shirt on at half-time, I thought, okay, he's going to bolster that left-back position. That's what he's doing. He's going to say, we're going to put a big centre-back style player in front of Jacob Murphy and go from there. That's not what happened. And I think it caught a lot of people off guard when Saliba was the one who was coming off. Now, I haven't seen anywhere any quotes whether that's an injury. I presume it was something. So that is one to watch for the final game of the season. But, against Southampton, all due respect to them, I think we should be fine with Calafiori and Kiwior. And just a shout out for both of those two, because I thought they did a very, very good job. A very good job when Saliba went off. Kiwior had been great all game and continued to be great and really stepped into the right-hand side of that defence very effectively. And Calafiori, he's such a good player, isn't he? I can't wait to see him after a good long pre-season with Arsenal, because he came on and in the first sort of 5 or 6 minutes, he was like playing at left wing. Like, he is so physically capable that I feel like he can basically play anywhere on the pitch, make a good go of it, and then recover to the position he's supposed to be playing. There were times where he was the highest and furthest left player. A really, really impressive performance for him and half for him. And really, we got on top at the start of the second half. So big credit, I've given credit to Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall. Big credit to Mikel Arteta. It's the second time in 2 games where we've come off a very, very poor first half where, Newcastle probably should have been in the lead. Liverpool were in the lead at this point, of course. And we've turned it around, and we've turned it around early, and it's showing a really good resilience to the team. And I think the recent, let's take the last 2 games. They've come at a time where it's sort of been a bit like, oh, we're out of the Champions League. We were never in the Premier League for a long, long time. And it's come at that time, and I think we're looking at them and being a bit disappointed. And it's like, oh, okay. But actually, if you zoom out, forget the Champions League, 4 points against Newcastle at home and Liverpool away at the crunch end of the season with the team that we've got available to us. Very, very good. Obviously, Newcastle were missing players, missing Joe Linton, missing Isak as well, but I don't think they were missing players to the scale we were missing players. So I think we've done really, really well, and those half-time recoveries have been really impressive. Another thing I think that's impressive is we've been looking at the results coming in from elsewhere, and actually it's always kept the pressure on us. Villa won, Chelsea won, City haven't played yet, but I presume they'll win. Forest won. So actually, people were continuing to put the pressure on us for that top 5 race, and we responded well. And of course, it's on the 54th minute that we do score and take the lead. It's a Declan Rice goal. Lovely assist from Ødegaard. Another one for him, and a quality strike from Rice. We've seen him hit that strike multiple times now. He really does have fantastic technique, doesn't he? He's now outscored himself in 102 games in comparison to 254 at West Ham. So really, really impressive return from him. I think it's 9 this year and 10 assists. So his numbers are creeping up and starting to look really healthy, really impressive. And it's a wonderful strike. We've seen him do that against Chelsea. I believe that was last season. Or it might have been early this season, actually. And I really do think that combination of Ødegaard and Rice in the midfield, when they're both fit and when they are both at the top of their game, will be really good. Whether it's Rice at 6 or Rice at 8, I'm not sure. I think there is. I've spoken about this on previous podcasts. I think there's a scenario where Rice is one of the 6s for next year alongside Zubimendi, and we sign another attacking midfielder, and we have a kind of 3 more industrial midfielders in Rice, Marino and Zubimendi, and 3 more attacking midfielders in Ødegaard, Vieira and another. I actually don't think I've released that podcast yet, so an insight into the future. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful goal, and it was typical of the start that we made to the second half, where suddenly we filled the gaps in the midfield that Newcastle were winning all of those balls in there and then able to play the ball out. And they were also somehow seemingly winning the ball back from us a lot, even though we had extra players in there in the first half. We plugged those gaps, made that far more effective. I think the distances were just wrong in the first half between Ødegaard, Partey, Rice, and then the fullbacks. Like, we never got those distances right. And that meant that passes couldn't flow. It meant that we weren't retaining the ball especially well. And clearly there were just some tactical tweaks. And it wasn't major tactical tweaks, right? It was literally just, I think you need to stand a bit closer together or a bit further apart when we've got the ball, that sort of thing. And we managed the ball a lot better in the second half. Newcastle made 3 changes on the 62nd minute to respond to how we were playing, but I don't think it made too much difference. We had a good chance from Ben White taking a shot from distance. That was a really exciting moment. I would have loved for him to get a goal since he's returned from injury. Havertz obviously returned from injury. That was a fantastic moment. I'm really pleased to see him back. Doesn't look physically restrained in any way, which is incredible. I mean, the first thing he did was launch a sprint straight up the pitch, and I think he was fouled very early on. So yeah, he looks good, and that's exciting. I love Kai Havertz. I think he's a really underappreciated player at Arsenal, and I think his injury, of all the ones that we had this year, his injury might have been the most consequential. And then we got sloppy towards the end. I must admit, there was a big chance for Joe Willock. He was allowed to play between, I think it was Jorginho and Ødegaard, a very easy ball into him. And then he turned our defence inside out and had a very good opportunity. He skied it in the end, but it was a bit of a warning sign that actually there was still a job to do. We only had a 1-goal buffer, and David Wright, he can't be expected to keep going with these wonderful saves. And then we have a strange end to the match where the referee it feels like he loses control. There was no foul for Dan Burn throwing the ball at Kai Havertz. No yellow card for Dan Burn throwing the ball at Kai Havertz. Very strange. I feel like that would have been, if an Arsenal player had done that, there would have been a whole Jamie Carragher Monday Night Football piece all about it. But, when it's a Newcastle player doing it to Arsenal, who cares? So that happened. And then Mikel Arteta got a very strange yellow card, because I've watched that a couple of times. I think he's trying to give the ball back and just plays a horrible left-footed pass. I don't know what you guys think. If you got any ideas on why Mikel Arteta was given a yellow, let me know, because I'm lost. I mean, I think the reason the referee will give is he's kicked the ball back into play trying to delay a restart, but it genuinely looks like he's just had a horrible left-footed pass down the line and messed it up. I don't think he thinks the Newcastle player's going for one of the multi-balls that are on the side of the pitch. I think he's trying to help, and he's been booked for that. So, typical. He receives a one-match ban from the touchline, so it'll be Albert Steinberg taking charge at the next game, I presume. But, frustrating one. Just an only Mikel Arteta yellow card. No one else. Maybe Jose Mourinho would be another person who would get that yellow card, but no one else is getting it. It's a strange one. A very, very strange one. But yeah, then the end of the game just descended into madness. Newcastle players started to lose their head. There was obviously Dan Burn, who should have been booked, and then started that scuffle right at the end of the game. David Raya obviously claims the ball and is knocked over. And then Dan Burn just seems to start on him. And I don't really understand why. Arsenal players get involved, and then there is a scuffle. David Raya looked... I was worried for a minute with David Raya because he was already yellow carded for time wasting. So I was worried. I was like, what are you doing? You look like you're going to go punch someone. He stormed at, I think it was Asula. And thankfully they were separated. A long VAR check, desperately trying to find a reason to send someone off. They weren't able to find anything. So the game just ended. It was a very odd end to the game. But look, job done. Job done in my opinion. Not vintage Arsenal by any means. Not at all. But... when you need a win, sometimes you just need a moment of quality from your £100 million player and move on from it. In terms of stars and under pars, well, let's do this now then before we go for a break. I think Raya is an obvious one. He made a lot of really important saves and kept us in the game early on. But I don't think I am going to give him a star because of that strange kicking and the weird... the inability to adapt when it wasn't working, I thought was quite odd. Martin Ødegaard got his assist, but I don't think his general performance was good enough. Well, it was okay, but not good enough for a star. The players I am going to give a star to are Jakub Kiwior, Ricardo Calafiori, and Trossard. For very simple reasons. Trossard was our best player in the first half, and I think he has acquitted himself really well in recent weeks. He looks like a player who might be... He's playing for a contract right now, and he's showing it. He's showing quality. And in the first half, he was that one player that I thought, okay, you can hold your head high. Calafiori, similar thing, but in the second half, I thought he came on and did a really good job. Would have been really difficult to replace William Saliba at halftime, even though William Saliba has not been in his best form and all of that, and has struggled in recent weeks. To come on and replace him is always going to be difficult. And I thought Calafiori did a very, very good job of that and managed that situation very well. But Jakub Kiwior was my man of the match. Gary Neville obviously gave it to David Raya. I would have given it to Jakub Kiwior. He made one incredible recovery tackle, put in one incredible cross as well, and just generally dealt with Callum Wilson exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. He made 2 blocks, 11 clearances, 7 of which those were with his head. 20 defensive actions and 4 recoveries. He won 6 duels. Really, really impressive. 4 out of 5 of his ground duels he won. I was just really impressed with a player who, people are talking about selling him this year. I can't see how we do that. He is such an able deputy, and if this season shows us anything with Gabriel Magalhaes' hamstring going, is that we need to use our deputies a bit more. We need to get into a place where we trust them more. And this recent run of games for Jakub Kiwior, if that doesn't build trust in the fan base and for the manager, I don't know what will. So he's my star. Under par, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because I don't think anyone was terrible. I think there was probably some slow moments from Thomas Partey, as we have seen over multiple weeks. But I thought Gabriel Martinelli probably gets my under par for this day, just because... I think they were right on commentary when they said Jacob Murphy is there to be got at. Fabian Schär was the right-sided centre-back as well, and I think we are far more mobile down our left than he is. And Martinelli didn't really do that much down that side. I think he could have done a bit more. So he gets my under par. But look, job done for Arsenal. Very, very happy to get a win again. First time in a while. And we are going to finish second, more than likely. So that's very, very exciting. In fact, let's take a quick break and I will talk about finishing second and just reflecting a little bit on the achievements of this year in the second half. Sorry for interrupting everyone, but I am on a mission and I need your help. I'm trying to get Arsenal Unfiltered into the ears of as many people as possible. And the best way that you can help me do that is by going and leaving a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts at. That really, really helps me grow the podcast and allows more people to hear the Arsenal Unfiltered coverage 3 times a week. So if you would be so kind to go and leave a review wherever you get your podcast from, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Welcome back to this match review episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. Arsenal won, Newcastle 0 yesterday afternoon. In the first half, we spoke about the game and some of the individual performances. Now I'm going to talk not about the season in depth, but what I want to talk about is second place in a Champions League semi-final. Has that season been a success? Can we be proud of it? I guess the question is. That's the exam question. Because after the game on Sky Sports here in the UK, they were talking a lot about, Arsenal will be disappointed. Arsenal should have won a trophy this year. Arsenal should have won the league this year. And look, I get where they're coming from. They are basing that analysis from where we were at the start of the year. Okay? And everyone's predictions were Arsenal would be in the running and probably get it over the line. And, if Jamie Redknapp said, if Manchester City drop off, how he phrased it was like, if you said to anyone at the start of the season Manchester City were going to lose 9 games, everyone would have said, well, Arsenal have to win. And to an extent, they're right? This season has been an opportunity missed. And Arsenal are not without blame in this. I don't subscribe to the idea that we had to go and get a striker in January. I don't think the market was there. I don't think the players were there that were going to massively improve us. And I think they took a very long-term strategic decision, which in the now can sometimes be quite hard to process and deal with. But long-term, if we have an electric summer this summer with transfer activity, you might look back at it and go, wow, that was a great decision that we didn't go and spend 60 million on Ollie Watkins. Now we've got tons of attacking talent because we've saved that money. So look, I don't subscribe to that, but Arsenal absolutely have played some games where the confidence or the execution has been poor, and we've drawn some of those games. Some of those draws were out of our control. A lot of them were in our control. We've had moments, like I say, we probably could have trusted the deputies a bit more and managed our team so that we didn't have injuries, etc. So look, we're not blameless. And could we have pushed Liverpool a bit harder? I do think we could have done. But I'm not sure I subscribe to the idea that second is a failure this year. Take Liverpool out of it, because they've obviously had an electric season, been fantastic. Mo Salah's been unbelievable. And Virgil van Dijk's continued to be really impressive, and they've done their job. They have absolutely done their job, and credit to them. Congratulations to them for winning the Premier League. Look at the rest of the teams. All of those big teams have dealt with some sort of injury crisis. Manchester City have had it hard. Manchester United have had it hard. Tottenham have had it hard. And ultimately, even Bournemouth have had it hard, A lot of teams have really struggled. A couple of teams have got away with it. I think Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea have had their struggles, but they seem to have been at full fitness for a while. And they've done really well because of that. So I think, I understand the point of view that actually this is an opportunity missed for Arsenal, but I think you have to update your analysis. Like, it's very clickbaity and headline righty. Or headline writing, that's not a word, headline grabbing, to say, well, this is what we predicted, it didn't come true, so that means X or that means Y. And also, the other way as well, this is what we predicted, it did come true, so that means, we're the best media outlet in the world. But you have to update your analysis as you go, and I think from the point of kind of some of those injuries that started to build up around the winter, December and January especially, from that point, there was a feeling, probably before Saka went down, that we just started to get our momentum back. We had a good run. We beat Nottingham Forest when they were flying high. We'd beaten Sporting 5-1. We did Palace 5 or 6, I can't remember. Jesus was starting to look really good. And we just got Martin Odegaard back. And there was a feeling at that point where it was like, okay, Arsenal might be able to go for this here. They might be able to have a run at Liverpool. And then all of our players went down again. And at that point, it's sort of like, I felt like at that point you had to update your analysis because there were a multitude of weird things that happened to Arsenal. And actually, is getting second something we can be proud of? Having had the winter of injuries that we had, I'm not going to talk about the red cards because whilst some of them have been silly, especially at the start of the year, I think the rest of them have been, well, not the rest of them. Some of them have been our fault, right? And I think we have to take accountability for that. We have to take the blame for the fact that some of these reds were ridiculous and some of them weren't. Some of them were just red cards, and that's okay. We got that wrong, so I'm not going to talk about that. But we have to update our idea that Arsenal should have won the league around the winter time. Actually, this season became a let's just see what we can squeeze out of it kind of scenario. Especially when we lost Kai Havertz after the transfer window closed, and then when Gabriel goes down as well. You know, it was just one thing after the other. So to sit there on national television and say this is an opportunity missed, I think it's difficult for me to work with because, yes, if Manchester City dropped away at the start of the year, I would have been saying we have to go and win it. That has to be us. This has to be our season to go and win it. And actually, I think I probably would have said the podcast didn't exist until October, but if you were asking me in August to do a podcast and predict the winners, I think I would have predicted Arsenal. Even with Manchester City, you know, I didn't know that Rodri was down at that point. I didn't know that they were going to have a season like they've had, which actually has turned out okay for them, hasn't it? I didn't know they were going to have a season like they had. I still would have predicted Arsenal. I would have. But you have to update that, you know. So to say it's an opportunity missed is kind of almost only looking at the circumstances that have happened to other teams. So, yeah, Manchester City have been bad. Manchester City have not performed to the level that they were expecting to. But there's reasons for that. And there's reasons why Arsenal are only second. And I do think there is Mikel Arteta said it in his conference after the Liverpool game, speaking about if you're not going to win it, you have to be the best of the rest. You have to be second. You have to hold that in high esteem and make sure that your pride doesn't allow you to dip below that. Like, keep working for that. And I think one thing that we can absolutely say about this Arsenal team this year, and the reason why I think we can be proud of second, is that's not gone away. The effort levels, the dedication, the application has never dropped at any point this season. And I think that's a real testament to Mikel Arteta and his players and the culture that they have at that club. Because this is something that could have easily spiralled, and it has spiralled on other teams. Tottenham, I don't like them, but bless them, at the start of the year when they had no centre-backs, no goalie, like, no team copes with that. No team in the Premier League copes with that. Liverpool do not cope with that. I promise you, if Konate, Van Dijk and Alisson go down for Liverpool, they are probably scrapping for top 5. Scrapping for it. So, you know, it happened to Tottenham. It's happened, you know, Manchester United, I don't think they were ever really expected to get in the Champions League, but it's happened to them as well. They've had real injury issues and have dropped down the league. I think people were probably predicting them for 7th or 8th, and now they're really, really far down, of course. So, listen, those things have happened to other teams and they've spiralled. We've not spiralled. We've not spiralled at any one point. Things have not gone well, but I think the number of our draws, that's being used against us, isn't it? You know, Arsenal have drawn too many games and it's because they don't have a striker. I actually kind of view it in a different way. So 14 draws this season. Some of them were due to our own shortcomings, but a lot of other teams have spiralled and lost a ton of games. Lost an absolute ton of games. The next lowest, obviously Liverpool have lost the least with 3. Arsenal have lost 4. The next lowest is 9. Chelsea, Aston Villa, Brentford. That's incredible, you know. And I this is why I view these draws in another way. Those draws are us holding on, not spiralling, keeping hold of things. Yes, we could have won a lot of those games. Yes, we could have done better, but we managed to dig in for a few of them, didn't we? And we didn't let things spiral. And ultimately, those draws have got us to second place. So I'm proud of the team. I'm proud they kept applying themselves. I'm proud that they kept working hard. It was clear yesterday that they are out on their feet, so exhausted. The Champions League run has taken it out of them emotionally and physically. The effort they've had to put in to get second in the Premier League has taken it out of them, but they kept going. And for that reason, if you're asking me, am I proud of them? Absolutely, I am. So yeah, it's not a success of a season, but I don't think it's one that we shouldn't be proud of. There's things to learn from, things to improve on, but ultimately to wrap up second place with a game to go, considering everything, considering the quality of the league this year as well, I think it's okay. We can live with it. Next season, as long as if this happens again, we need to look at ourselves and maybe some of our management of players, etc., etc. And I don't think it will be given as an excuse next season. We have to do better managing our players and managing the load on them. So I don't think we'll be allowed that excuse next season internally within the club. But I don't think that, touch wood, I think it's very unlikely that we have this amount of bad luck again. And I think that next year we really do need to go on and win something and take that next step. We need to get over the line, and the summer transfer window will be key to that. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, guys, because I feel like I'm rambling on this point a little bit now. That was the match review podcast of Arsenal 1, Newcastle 0. A really poor first half, rectified by a good second half, second time in 2 weeks. David Raya, very, very impressive, but Jakub Kiwior, Calafiori, and Trossard got my stars. In terms of can we be proud of this season, I think we absolutely can. The context, you have to adjust your analysis as you go through. And it's not a success. No, I get that. It's not what we wanted at the start of the season. Absolutely not what we wanted. But when you factor in all the conditions that have been played through our season and through our squad, I think we can hold our heads high to say we gave it a really good go. We kept our application in there, did a good job, and second is pretty good. Best of the rest this year, as long as we don't have a wild swing in the final game, but best of the rest. So I'm going to leave it there. There will be an Arsenal roundup this week, starting to look ahead to some of the transfer rumours, which is very, very exciting. And obviously we will cover that final game this Sunday against Southampton. Season is almost over. Can't believe it. Very, very strange to think that there's going to be no Arsenal for a few months, but is what it is. I am excited to do my first summer on this podcast. Lots and lots of transfer stuff. We'll be looking for new formats, doing some different things. So keep an eye out for that. Like I said, in the middle, I am on a mission to get Arsenal Unfiltered into as many Arsenal fans' ears as possible. And the best way you can help with that is just to go and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts from. It really, really helps drive the podcast to other people's ears. So if you could do that, I would be really, really appreciative. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.